The girl says Miyamoto quietly. She looks around shyly, feeling a sweet scent coming from someone, slightly freezing with excitement. Takeru stands behind the girl and hugs her waist. He says that doing it from the front is too indecent, so it's better to do it from behind, and she shyly agrees, answering with a yes. The girl, slightly embarrassed, looks over her shoulder. She asks someone to put their hands underneath and take off her bra. The girl is in an elevated emotional state and looks embarrassed, while Takeru stands next to her, also surprised by what is happening. The whole situation has reached the point of absurdity. Takeru looks at the screen in front of him with a surprised expression. He asks what happened with a surprised look, which emphasizes his confusion or lack of understanding of what is happening. Takeru looks at the screen in surprise, saying, "What is this?" The screen shows information indicating the profession breast corrector and the skill breast correction. Takeru holds a piece of paper in his hands and looks at it with a serious expression. About 10 years ago, dungeons began to appear on Earth, and this became a chance for many people to change their lives by becoming adventurers. Takeru looks ahead with a thoughtful expression on his face. He graduated from high school and now wants to become an adventurer. A girl with a friendly smile stands in the office and carries on a conversation. She notes that unfortunately many people were not able to get the profession they were counting on. Takeru sits at the table, holding a piece of paper in his hands, and looks at his interlocutor. He thinks about whether to show her the result, and the interlocutor asks him not to be upset if something goes wrong. A girl with an interested expression takes a book or folder that someone hands her. Takeru claims that it is not quite what she expected. Sitting across from each other at the table, Takeru looks ahead shyly, and the girl says that she thinks this profession is completely unique. A young woman with an interested look looks ahead, holding a book. She talks about her profession, which used to be called the embodiment of a cucumber, which has an unlimited libido. The girl says that his skill seems much more useful. Maybe he can help someone. And Takeru replied sadly that he doubts it. A girl with short hair sits at the table with a friendly smile. She says that there are many women who worry about their breasts. The girl sits at the table, her head slightly down, and shyly replies, "Ah, no, nothing." Takeru is below, watching her reaction with a questioning expression, and it is mentioned that she thinks he got something amazing. A young man with a serious expression sits at a table and asks about his profession. He expresses doubt whether he will be able to practice his profession in the dungeons. A young man with a worried expression warns someone, saying that they should never go near the dungeons. It is stated that doing so will result in death. Two people are sitting at a table, a man opposite a woman. Most of the people who went underground with the wrong profession died within 3 months. The girl holds the young man's hands and looks seriously into his eyes. She asks him to promise that he will not go into the dungeon, adding that no one wants to see their family and friends cry. A young man sits at a table alone, looking thoughtfully out the window. He says that he spent the entire spring break just lazing around. A young man sits at a table and thinks about the profession of a proofreader, asking himself this question. He says that he does not want anyone to know about it. The girl presses her hand to her lips in surprise, tilting her head forward slightly. She asks in surprise if the other person really said the word proofreader. The girl stands in front of the sitting guy and leans towards him, indignantly explaining something. She says that she didn't say anything and asks again if he understood her. The girl calmly explains the situation. Looking at the interlocutor, she reflects on the panic reaction and suggests that the other Takeru has the skill to see the abilities of other people. The girl stands with a sharp expression on her face, holding her hand near the guy's face, who seems stunned. She claims that her interlocutor is twisting her words and is surprised that this is happening again in the context of her profession. The teacher stands at the board in front of the class, about to start the lesson. The student thinks to himself that he is sure the girl will never talk to him again. Two students are sitting at a desk and talking. One student smiles and offers the other to go home together, and the other student agrees. A girl stands in front of two sitting guys and looks at one of them. She asks if she can talk to him. One Takeru puts his hand on the other's shoulder, trying to hold him back. The second Takeru, looking ahead, says he'll go alone. A girl stands next to a seated boy, asking him to go home together. Takeru, sitting at his desk, thinks that this is probably related to what happened earlier. The girl asks her with a surprised expression if she said something strange, while she presses her finger to her lips, looking thoughtfully ahead. Nearby, another Takeru reacts with bewilderment to her words, exclaiming, "What?" The girl says with a joyful smile, "Then, let's go!" and energetically takes a step forward. Her gesture and facial expression show enthusiasm and readiness to move on. A girl and Takeru are talking in front of a subway station. The girl asks the guy if his house is near the station, and Takeru answers in surprise, asking how she knew that information. The girl smiles and suggests that the guy go to karaoke before heading to the station. Takeru listens to her suggestion, standing nearby, clearly interested in the conversation. Takeru calmly replies, "Okay," with a neutral expression. At this point, he wonders what exactly the girl could be planning. Takeru wonders if it was his mistake not to approach the girl. The girl stands nearby, looking at the reception desk, showing no emotion. Takeru is surprised to say that this is the first time he has been in a closed room with a girl. The girl, standing next to him, asks why he hasn't sat down yet. Takeru asks, confused, where the girl is looking. She calmly points to something off to the side, sitting on the couch. Takeru points to the camera in the corner and says it's just a fake. The girl asks him what he means, surprised. Takeru asks in surprise if this is Taira-san's ability. The girl calmly explains that cameras are usually used to prevent theft. The girl, pressing her finger to her lips, asks to keep something a secret. The interlocutor quietly agrees with her request. The girl, with a slight smile on her face and a finger to her lips, says that her profession is an appraiser. She looks confident, suggesting that the interlocutor keep this information a secret. Takeru states with a confident smile that he has already guessed this. He leans forward slightly, showing his satisfaction with his guess. A person with a special skill can see through people and read their thoughts, which makes this skill valuable. An appraiser is able to analyze the authenticity of objects and recognize fakes. The girl realizes that she now understands what the other meant when she asked her not to tell anyone. She thinks about how many people don't like the ability to reveal even the most intimate secrets of people. Takeru, looking around the room carefully, says that he can see everything that comes into his field of vision. He notices a hairpin near the sofa, pointing to it as an example. Takeru excitedly notes that it's amazing, adding that, unlike his skill, he can immediately see hidden cameras or listening devices. The girl stands up from the table and indignantly declares that this is not true. Her hands are firmly resting on the surface, and her gaze is full of determination. The girl leans towards the guy, declaring that he is making a huge mistake. Takeru looks at her in surprise and asks a question, not understanding why she is speaking so formally. The girl says that there are many women in the world who worry about their breasts. Takeru sits opposite her and calmly replies that he knows about it. The girl excitedly says that she is one of those people in question, pressing her hands to her chest. She admits that she is constantly embarrassed by the size of her breasts. The girl admits that she tried many ways to increase her breast size, including drinking milk and using various supplements. She adds with disappointment that, as you can see, it did not help. Takeru tells the girl with a slight smile that he understands everything. She exclaims, "Ah!" in response, looking at him in surprise and slightly embarrassed. The girl, blushing, embarrassedly asks if her breasts are so small that Takeru doesn't even want to look at them. Takeru, turning to her, indignantly answers, "No," claiming that it is rude to look at someone's breasts. Takeru clenches his fists and makes an emotional expression as he admits that he is very interested in her breasts. He adds that he hates himself for not having the same skill as her. Takeru, raising his hand, defiantly tells the girl that if the camera is not real, then let her take off her clothes and show him her breasts. The girl stands in front of him, embarrassedly pressing her hand to her chest. A girl with a slight smile on her face asks if the guy is really interested in her breasts. She holds her hand to her chest, shyly waiting for his answer. The girl smiles happily and thanks the guy, saying that he is very kind. Takeru, slightly surprised, repeats her words, as if thinking about them. A girl sits on a bench, one leg stretched out, her gaze downcast, thinking. She says that as a girl, she would like to have breasts to show off. The girl sits, slightly opening her jacket and looking straight at the interlocutor. She asks him to use his skill on her, expressing expectation. Takeru, in his school uniform, sits on the couch and reacts to something with his hands raised in surprise. He asks, "Seriously?" And the girl across from him asks him to do something more and adds, "Please." Takeru ponders, lightly touching his chest with his hand, and says that he should use his skill. He looks focused, preparing for his next move. Takeru leans closer to the girl, asking worriedly if she minds. The girl lowers her eyes and quietly replies that she can't say she minds at all. Takeru looks at his interlocutor in surprise and asks, "What?" The girl calmly explains that everything will be fine because she knows him better than he does. A dragon and monsters attack the city, people run in panic, trying to save themselves. At this time, the voiceover tells how dungeons began to appear all over the world 10 years ago, which led to many victims. The boy sits on the floor in front of the TV and watches the news attentively. The voice from the screen says that at that moment he was at home. Takeru is kneeling and crying, feeling guilty for his helplessness. The phrase in the image suggests that he was angry at himself for being powerless to save everyone. The girl smiles and looks kindly at her interlocutor. She says that he is a very kind person. Takeru looks at the girl with confusion as he listens to her words. She apologizes for saying that using her skill, but trusts him. The girl smiles confidently, holding her hands in front of her in a thoughtful pose. She says that, having looked into his past, she is filled with great respect for him. Takeru holds someone's hands with a serious expression while in an emotional moment. He says that even if the person he's talking to can't make his breast bigger, it won't change his attitude. Two people hold hands, creating a feeling of closeness and warmth. One of them asks permission to stay close, expressing sincere feelings. The boy cries, and the elder Takeru stands nearby, looking away with a thoughtful expression. He admits that he still worries more about others than himself. The girl gently folds her hands in front of her and says with a soft smile that she doesn't want to be a hero. She thanks her friend for supporting her dreams instead of laughing at them. The girl happily throws her hands up in the air while sitting at the table and expressing her pleasure. She says that this is exactly what she wanted, expressing gratitude to the guy sitting opposite her. The girl stands with her arms slightly raised to take off her jacket, smiling and looking at her interlocutor. In another part of the image, she is shown unbuttoning the buttons of her shirt, expressing slight embarrassment or indecision. The girl stands in front of the guy, who anxiously asks her not to undress here, fearing that they might be seen. In response, she agrees and moves to the wall, where, according to him, there is a blind spot. The girl looks at the guy with a slight smile and tells him that she is embarrassed to do something from the front, so she offers to do it from behind. Her calm posture and direct gaze show that she is trying to remain calm despite the situation. The girl stands with her back to the interlocutor, leaning slightly forward, and offers him to put his hands under her shirt to unfasten her bra. Her voice sounds confident, and her posture shows readiness to continue the action. A girl says she can't take something off herself because of her shirt, standing next to a guy who looks worried. He exclaims in surprise why he has to do it, showing his confusion. The girl explains that the clasp is in the center and easy to unfasten, reassuring the interlocutor. She stands with her back to him, ready to help if needed. Takeru sheepishly says that the situation makes him uncomfortable and asks to speed up. The girl agrees, briefly answering, "Okay," and prepares for further action. The girl suddenly screams at the unexpected movement, pressing her hand to herself. Takeru stands behind her, slightly confused, not understanding what happened. The girl apologizes, embarrassedly saying that this is the first time Takeru has touched her back. Takeru, standing behind her, asks worriedly if she is okay. Takeru zips or unzips something on the girl's back, confirming that the task is complete. The girl sighs in relief, her face slightly flushed from tension or embarrassment. Takeru says he has to do something more, clearly feeling stressed or determined. Another person, probably his brother, calms him down, telling him not to worry. The girl states that she wants a size C or D, considering her choice. Takeru, standing next to her, quietly agrees, expressing his willingness to help. Based on the phrase, Takeru is using or about to use some skill, possibly at a crucial moment, causing a tense or important situation. Takeru says that in order to activate his skill, he must touch his chest. This may imply an embarrassed or awkward situation, as the action causes surprise in the other Takerua. The girl wonders why the words seem loud in her head, expressing confusion or embarrassment. Takeru next to her looks surprised or puzzled by her question. The girl looks sheepishly, with wide eyes and flushed cheeks, which may indicate a sudden or awkward moment. Full moon adds an element of humorous or ambiguous subtext to the situation, associated with something funny or embarrassing. The girl, with her mouth wide open and her face flushed, looks excited or experiencing strong emotions. Takeru is leaning in close behind her, creating an atmosphere of a tense or intimate moment between the Takeruamis. The girl, slightly blushing, looks embarrassed, and behind her stands Takeru, who is leaning close to her. "Wait!" reflects her attempt to stop or slow down what is happening, possibly due to the tense or unexpected developments. The girl appears flustered and may be trying to cover her mouth with her hand, as if she was surprised or caught off guard. Takeru is standing behind her, which may indicate an emotional or tense interaction between the Takeruas. The girl exclaims emotionally, clenching her fists and blushing in embarrassment, while Takeru looks stunned behind her. She declares that he is now obliged to marry her, which adds comedy and surprise to the situation. The girl, crossing her arms, says in embarrassment that she won't be able to get married after going through something so shameful. Takeru, behind her, asks what she's talking about in surprise, clearly not understanding her emotions. The girl looks over her shoulder with a slight smile and leans forward defiantly, showing her boldness. She tells the guy that he was turned on by what he saw, and mentions that her clothes are wet, adding a playful intrigue to the situation. The girl laughs and tells the boy in a joking manner that it doesn't matter since he's already seen everything. Takeru, confused, tries to stop her, pointing out that she's going too far. Takeru turns to his interlocutor with an embarrassed expression. He says that she herself suggested using his skill, clearly making excuses or being surprised by the situation. The girl, blushing in embarrassment, looked down and said that she already regrets her decision. She also admits that the very thought of how pleasant this skill was for her makes her even more embarrassed. The girl lies on the bed and emotionally screams that she does not want her first time with a guy to happen for such a stupid reason. Her face expresses confusion and protest. She is clearly alarmed by the situation. Takeru, blushing in embarrassment, says that it all happened because the girl is too charming. He is slightly tense, gesturing with his hands, trying to justify or explain his actions. A girl with a
I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel, liked and wrote a comment, rating this manga on a scale from 1 to 10. Your opinion is very important to me. This will help me better understand what my audience is interested in, because you are really important to me.
Serious expression tells the other man to take responsibility and marry her. Her gesture indicates determination, while below, another Takeru replies that this is going too far. The girl, putting her hands to her chest, asks doubtfully if her skill worked. She looks surprised as she looks at herself and notices that there have been no changes. Takeru, dressed in a business suit, calmly explains that it will take about a month to achieve the desired result. He holds up a finger, emphasizing the importance of regular stimulation once a week. The girl holds her hand with a serious expression and says sheepishly, "Are we gonna have to do this again?" She looks unsure and slightly tense, perhaps feeling awkward about the situation. Takeru, in his school uniform, slightly embarrassed, suggests that they hold the next meeting at the girl's house. He looks at her with interest, while the girl replies that she doesn't mind, but asks if she's sure about it. The girl sits with her elbow on the back of the sofa, with a slight smile and a confident look. She says that Takeru probably won't dare to push her down, adding a sarcastic, "Right, Mr. Groom?" The girl sits on the bench, head down, looking depressed. She quietly says that she should have asked for her consent first, and then calls the interlocutor a fool. Takeru exclaims in surprise, asking, "What? Why?" The girl calmly replies that he just doesn't understand, remaining in place. The girl sits with her arms crossed and turns away, looking thoughtful. She says that her words were not just empty, hinting at their significance. A girl with a serious expression sits looking away. She says that she was serious, and asks the interlocutor to take responsibility for this. Takeru sits, clearly nervous, with a confused expression on his face. He quietly replies that, of course he agrees, but his voice sounds uncertain. The girl points her finger forward with confidence, her gaze full of determination. She says that she will now call the interlocutor Takeru, stating this firmly and without hesitation. Takeru touches his face a little shyly as he looks at his interlocutor. He says that he will call her Rima then, clearly making a choice at this moment. The girl sits with her arms crossed and speaks with a thoughtful look. She admits that she is not sure whether they are friends or dating. The girl presses her hands to her chest in surprise, her face flushed with embarrassment. Takeru, standing next to her, says that he feels happy just being with her. The girl gestures emotionally, pointing at her interlocutor, and indignantly says that you can't just say things like that. She sits opposite, and Takeru, clearly stunned, tries to say something in response, but looks embarrassed. Takeru, sitting at the table, leans forward slightly and reaches out to take her hand. She exclaims in surprise when he admits that he feels warm under her touch. Takeru, with a serious expression, talks about the hidden effect of his profession. He honestly admits that he is not sure if he has such an effect. The girl quietly says that it is good, and suggests that they sit like this for a little while longer. Takeru and the girl sit quietly together, the girl leaning on his shoulder, as if enjoying the moment. The two hands intertwine tenderly, creating an intimate moment. One of the Takerui expresses a desire to prolong this touch a little longer. Takeru, slightly embarrassed, agrees and says that he doesn't see any problem with the proposal. His heart starts beating faster as evidenced by the doki doki expression next to him. Takeru lets out a surprised cry, clearly not expecting what was happening. The girl, calmly resting her head on his shoulder, seems to have already dozed off, not paying attention to his reaction. The girl, slightly blushing, closes her eyes and inhales the scent that surrounds her. She thinks about the pleasant aroma of shampoo that hangs in the air. Takeru listens with surprise and slight embarrassment as they tell him about his male scent. He is clearly taken aback by this confession, as can be seen from his embarrassed reaction and exclamation. The girl, with a slight reproach, tells him not to be embarrassed by such things. Takeru, blushing, stands nearby and feels clearly embarrassed. The girl sighs tiredly and notes that there have been many awkward moments today. She adds that if this helps solve her problem, then it was all worth it. The girl, a little embarrassed, tells the guy that he might be embarrassed about it. Takeru stands silently next to her, also clearly a little embarrassed by her words. Takeru tells the girl that she shouldn't worry about her breast size, as it doesn't determine her attractiveness. He adds that she should be more confident in herself, while the girl listens to him with a serious expression. The girl asks him sheepishly if he really thinks so. Takeru answers confidently that he does. A girl with red cheeks leans on a guy's shoulder and tells him that he is special to her. Takeru sits next to him, surprised by her unexpected confession. The girl sleeps with her head on the guy's shoulder, and it seems that her heart is beating faster. At this time, she thinks that everything that is happening is like a dream. The girl quietly says that it's okay, and suggests that they sit like this for a little while longer. Takeru and the girl sit quietly together, the girl leaning on his shoulder, as if enjoying the moment. The girl, kneeling at a low table, sadly asks when she will grow breasts. Then she stands up, thinking that she should trust Takeru. The girl says softly that she doesn't hate herself as much when she looks in the mirror now. She stands, lightly touching her chest with her hand, as if aware of the internal changes. The girl admitted that she started talking about marriage impulsively, but realized that she really loved Takeru. She stands with her hands clasped together, expressing her feelings. The girl says that what she saw was more than just a profession. She explains that her assessment skill helped her understand something important. One child talks about the past, when Takeru wanted to save many people. Both children sit on each other's knees, holding hands tightly. Takeru says that he wanted to become an adventurer to help people in trouble. He crosses his arms, expressing determination and inner motivation. Takeru says that life often doesn't follow our plans. He stretches his hands forward, as if trying to grab something or change something. Takeru never gave up, and that someone is surprised by his kindness. Takeru is depicted with a serious expression, noting his determination and character. The girl says that anyone would support someone like him. Takeru obviously pays attention to someone's support and recognition. Takeru says that Takeru can help many people with his skill, just like he helped the speaker. He raised his hands in front of him, as if demonstrating or emphasizing his words. The girl lies on her stomach on a pillow and says the phrase, "Oh my God, what am I thinking?" He looks thoughtful, perhaps experiencing a moment of reflection or inner confusion. Takeru says that she will have to try harder to stop Takeru from paying attention to another girl. She looks worried and thoughtful as she ponders the situation. Takeru says, if he starts using his skill. She looks worried, covering her mouth with her hand, as if she's worried about the possible consequences. She wonders if he will make me feel that good again. She looks confused and a little nervous, closing her eyes. The girl thinks that she is just helping him. He himself said that they need to be massaged. She is embarrassed, her face is slightly red, and she turns away, clearly feeling awkward. Takeru says that her breasts have grown. She smiles cheerfully, making a victory gesture with her hand. He stands opposite on a busy street, gesturing towards his interlocutor. He tells Rima not to shout so loudly. "You're right, but still." He stands in front of the girl, and his pose looks thoughtful. The girl replied that, "Okay, no one cares what we are talking about." She crossed her arms over her chest, expressing calm and some carelessness. Takeru says, "I'm glad they've gotten bigger, but we still have a lot of work to do." She's a little embarrassed and holds her hands in front of her, lightly touching her chest. Takeru says that he understands the desire to enlarge breasts, but does not think it is necessary. He appears serious and reasonable when expressing his point of view. Takeru asks, "Do you really think so?" She leans forward, showing her confusion. The other Takeru replies, "You know I'm not good at lying, right?" He looks at her with a small smile. remaining calm. Takeru says that he trusts the other and replies that he won't go too far. They walk side by side on the street while the girl keeps her hands behind her back, showing confidence and calm. Takeru asks in surprise, "You decided to listen to me?" He tilts his head slightly, his gaze focused and surprised. Takeru smiles and says that of course he will listen, because this is his future fiancé. He turns slightly towards his interlocutor, creating an atmosphere of trust and closeness. Takeru calmly says that in the future, they will be able to change things as they wish. His hand is slightly extended forward, as if he is indicating the possibility of control and change. Takeru says that her breasts now belong to the other person. She stands with a confident posture, raising her hands behind her head and slightly leaning forward, expressing a playful mood. Takeru says he's too embarrassed. The girl next to him replies that he's making the situation even more awkward. Takeru exclaims that he has already been allowed more than usual. The other Takeru asks him to speak more quietly, indicating the need for restraint. A suited Takeru says good morning and asks if they've been flirting since the morning. Another Takeru annoyedly tells someone to shut up. Takeru, the girl, says that she feels so happy, as if all the heavy stones have disappeared. She stands leaning on a chair and leaning forward, which emphasizes her relief and joy. Takeru says that the time he spent refusing to become an adventurer was just a bad dream. The girl in the image smiles and maintains a relaxed pose, resting her hand on her chin. Takeru says that he is very hungry and suggests that they go eat. The other Takeru standing nearby answers with a confused, reacting a little embarrassed to the situation. A girl with a serious expression says, "Can I talk to you?" She stands opposite a young man who is sitting at a table, looking at her and listening. The girl says, "Can I talk to you?" She stands in front of a young man sitting at a table who is looking at her with attention. A young man asks, "Do you need something?" He is sitting at a desk and looking with interest at someone who is next to him. The girl with glasses says that she would like to talk. She looks serious, but at the same time quite nice, standing in front of the interlocutor. A girl with a serious expression says the phrase with surprise, "God, you." She stands with her hands on her hips, demonstrating bewilderment or irritation. A man with a thoughtful expression on his face quietly says, "I never understood that." He stands with his hands in his pockets, lost in thought. The girl objected, "How did he know her name?" One Takeru says that this is their first meeting. The other one is interested in their relationship. The girl with a serious expression says, "If you say I can go with you, then you're not Takeru's girlfriend." She crossed her arms, showing her confidence and doubt in the other person's words. The girl, with a tense expression on her face, quietly says, "I just want to talk." She is sweating slightly, probably from nervousness, and her hands are clasped to her chest. The girl agrees to listen to her interlocutor, asking her name. The other girl introduces herself, standing in front of her and slightly bowing her head. The girl with glasses asks confidently, "Futayama, Tasan, right?" She stands straight, looking attentively, waiting for confirmation. Takeru, sitting at his desk, turns around in surprise and says, "Oh, I'm coming." Then, hearing the call, he resolutely rises from his seat, ready to follow the others. The girl says confidently, "Okay, no one should come here." She stands in front of the two guys among the bookshelves, her hands folded in front of her. The girl asks, "What did you want to talk about?" She stands next to two classmates in the library, looking at them intently. A girl standing in a library says sheepishly, honestly, I don't know how to say this properly." She holds her hands in front of her, her head slightly bowed, looking unsure and hesitant. Takeru asks with a slightly embarrassed expression, "Does Takeru have a skill that can change the size of breasts?" He blushed slightly, his gaze directed forward, as if he was unsure of the other person's reaction. The girl in the library says, "I just thought about it." Takeru asks, surprised, "Where are you from?" while looking at her. The girl, hugging the guy by the arm, indignantly says, "You can't call him Takeru." Takeru embarrassedly apologizes, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." Takeru asks, "What's Rimu-san's name?" The girl answers by explaining that she's only heard them call each other by their first names. The girl calmly says that her name is Taira Rimu, but suggests calling her simply Rimu. She stands in front of the interlocutor in a school uniform, smiling reservedly. The girl says with a smile, "Then you call me Madoka." The other girl replies, "Okay," standing in front of her. A girl in a school uniform standing in the library asks, "How did you know about Takeru's skill?" She looks serious, waiting for an answer. Takeru, in his school uniform, says, "You can find out for yourself." They are in the library, among the shelves of books. Takeru, in school uniform, says that he forgot about the ban on telling about her skill. Another phrase indicates that it should be their secret. The girl says, "My profession." Her long hair flutters in the wind, creating a dynamic effect. The girl straightens her tie, standing confidently as the wind blows her long hair. She says with a serious expression, "Prophet of the wind." The girl calmly says that the wind prophet has the ability to predict. She shows a light whirlwind, swirling the air in her hand. The girl fixes her hair and says that her skill vaguely tells her what to do. She looks thoughtful and focused. The girl explains that the wind prophet has some ability to predict. At the same time, she creates a light whirlwind with her hands, demonstrating the power of the wind. The girl admits that she did not intend to start a conversation at first. Her two listeners in school uniforms look at her attentively. The girl exclaims in surprise, pointing her finger at herself. She hears that Rima told very interesting things. The girl reflects on how she did not expect that someone could overhear their conversation. However, she calmly states that she has nothing to be ashamed of. The girl says with a smile that she wants to ask Takeru to make them even bigger. She is pleased because, thanks to his skill, they have increased from size A to B. One girl excitedly exclaims that it's really cool, and another agrees, noting that Takeru's skill is impressive. The girl is seriously considering the offer to increase the size of her breasts and asks if the interlocutor wants to make them even bigger. She looks skeptical and a little surprised by such an offer. The girl shyly crosses her arms over her chest and says that she wants something else. The other two Takerui look at her with surprise and bewilderment. The girl, adjusting her glasses, says that she wants to reduce something. Her face maintains a serious expression, emphasizing the determination in her words. A man with a serious expression asks if someone can only get breast enlargement. In response, the other Takeru briefly replies, "No," while remaining calm. The girl, holding the guy's hands, looks at him excitedly and says something enthusiastically. Takeru looks surprised and a little confused, as if he didn't expect such a turn of events. A girl with a serious expression and a slightly embarrassed look asks a guy if he can use his skill on her. She holds his hands, waiting for an answer, and Takeru looks slightly stunned. A girl in a school uniform leans towards a bookshelf and says something hesitantly. In the next shot, she addresses a boy named Miyamoto-kun, looking slightly embarrassed and serious. The girl, breathing heavily, with a flushed face and an embarrassed expression, quietly says, "Please." Her body is slightly tense, and her heart beats faster, which is emphasized by the sounds of doki doki. A girl in a school uniform, arms crossed and a frown on her face, says a remark to a guy with displeasure. He looks at her with surprise, trying to understand the reason for her mood. Takeru says the phrase, "Sorry," with a slight smile and a good-natured expression. He is addressing someone with an apology, and the text next to it shows that it might be about someone's jealousy. Takeru, standing next to the girl, calmly tells her, "Just do it," hinting at the simplicity of the action. The girl, slightly turning her head towards him, asks in confusion how she should use a certain skill. Takeru, dressed in a school uniform, says a phrase about why not help a beautiful girl with a slightly surprised expression. He looks at the other person, waiting for confirmation or an answer to his question. The girl, with a slight smile on her face, says that since she has a useful skill, it is worth using. She turns over her shoulder, expressing confidence and a slight challenge in her words. Takeru laughs, covering his mouth with his hand, and says that she was so cute. The girl, with her mouth open in surprise, asks why he is laughing. Takeru smiles slightly embarrassedly and apologizes to his interlocutor, saying that it was an accident. The girl asks with surprise in her voice what he is even talking about. Takeru, looking at the girl, calmly says that they get along well. The girl, with slight surprise, asks how long they have known each other. The girl, holding her hands to her mouth in surprise, says that it could have been fate that they became so close so quickly. She remembers that it happened around the day of the entrance ceremony. The girl hesitantly says that perhaps she shouldn't have asked Miyamoto-kun for help. Her friend replies that she doesn't mind, but wants to make sure that she's really sure of her decision. The girl raises her finger, seriously noting that Takeru's skill is not that easy to use. She looks forward with a concentrated expression, as if explaining something important. A girl with a serious expression tells him that he needs to fondle your breasts. She looks a little surprised. Her eyes are wide open, and her pose remains reserved and calm, emphasizing the moment of surprise. The girl shows 3 fingers and says she has done it 3 times. Her interlocutor asks curiously if she has done it too. The girl, adjusting her glasses, says that once is not enough and will have to repeat several times during the month. She looks thoughtful and serious, obviously thinking about some important process. The girl in the school uniform says that if this suits you, you can contact him. She gestures with her right hand, and her interlocutors listen attentively, standing nearby. A girl with her back to the viewer says that she doesn't want her breasts to cause her any more trouble. She turns to a young man named Miyamoto-kun and asks for his help while standing in a library. The girl in glasses looks serious and focused. A young man, standing opposite a girl, offers her his help. The girl asks in surprise if this is true, showing interest. The girl thanks him with a smile and says that she will do whatever he wishes. The young man looks surprised and asks her again. The girl, with a shy expression on her face, folded her hands in front of her. She was thinking about what she wanted. The girl, with a slight smile and downcast eyes, says something in a quiet voice, slightly embarrassed. A girl with a serious expression makes a remark about what words should not be said to a guy. The young man next to her looks puzzled and asks why she did this. The girl waves her hand in greeting as she stands by the door, saying goodbye. The text next to it says that she is inviting someone to come to Tucker's house after school. The girl looks away with slight embarrassment on her face, biting her lips slightly. The girl, with a serious expression, a little embarrassed, looks away, saying that he is only hers, Takeru, which expresses her pretentiousness or jealousy towards the guy. 2 students walk quickly down a school corridor, looking ahead with worried expressions. One of them exclaims that they need to go back to class, and the other one briefly agrees. 4 school children are talking in a classroom. 2 are sitting at desks, and 2 are standing. One of the sitting Takerui says with a smile that he is curious, and the other asks if the other is awake, while the standing students look surprised. A young man with a friendly smile, dressed in a school uniform and looking relaxed. He says that he recently passed the test, but did not receive anything special, and thinks that it is not worth saying what profession he has chosen. 2 students are talking at a school desk. One of them says that he could have become an adventurer if his level was higher, while the other claims that his profession is spearman. The young man with short dark hair says there are many other areas where his profession can be useful. He looks calm and confident as he stands in his school uniform and looks forward. A girl in a school uniform makes a peace sign and says with a smile that it applies to her too. Below, another girl in glasses looks at her interlocutor seriously, without expressing any emotions. A girl with a determined expression, wearing a school uniform with a bow, walking down a hallway or classroom. She looks ahead confidently, with her lips pressed tightly together, showing that she is focused and ready to take action. A girl with long blonde hair tied in a ponytail looks into the distance with a serious and determined expression. The text in the speech bubbles says that she looks very beautiful and goddess-like, which emphasizes her elegance and impressive appearance. A girl with long hair sits at a desk and reads something. 2 students nearby are discussing her, mentioning that she has a rare profession, Holy Knight, and that she is a world-class adventurer. Takeru is in his school uniform, looking away thoughtfully, with a serious expression on his face. The text in the speech bubble states that this is his first meeting with someone since entering the school. The girl put her hand on the shoulder of the guy sitting in front of her, and with a serious expression asks him where he is looking. Takeru turns around in surprise, reacting to her question. A girl with her eyes closed and arms crossed expresses dissatisfaction or irritation. 3 people are standing outside a school building, probably after school. One of the Takerui suggests that they go home together, and the other says that something will change from today, possibly hinting at an important event in their lives. A girl with long hair and glasses appears confused or anxious. She wonders if she is ready for an upcoming event, while text nearby talks about the need to reduce Takeru Futayami-san's breasts. 3 school children are in a room. One of them opens the door, inviting the others in. He says that his parents are coming late, so they can relax, to which one of the girls answers with a hesitant yes. A girl in a school uniform with long hair and glasses looks a little embarrassed. The text next to her says that she came to the boy's house for the first time. 2 girls are talking to each other. One of them assures the other that the guy has nothing but his looks, suggesting that he is superficial. A boy and a girl in a school uniform are talking. The girl says that none of her jokes work, and the boy suggests making jokes more understandable. The girl thoughtfully presses her hand to her face, as if she is thinking about something important. She thinks about whether to tell the story of her search, and decides that she should not. The girl confidently declares that she and the guy have good compatibility. At this time, Another girl jokes with a smile, hinting that the guy is under her influence. Two girls in school uniforms are talking. One girl turns to the other with surprise, noting that she is not so tense now. A girl with glasses and a serious expression folds her hands in front of her, as if she is about to say something important. She is addressing a character named Miyamoto. The girl calmly tells the guy to take off his jacket, addressing him by name. The guy agrees with slight anxiety and prepares to fulfill the request. The girl adjusts her glasses and looks forward with a determined expression. At this time, she lifts her jacket slightly, as if she is about to take it off. The girl with a serious expression asks the guy to stop looking and sit on the bed. The guy, a little embarrassed, agrees, touching his cheek, as if in thought. The girl looks slightly embarrassed as she buttons her shirt. She is instructed to unbutton it and loosen her bra, which she prepares to do while in the room. A girl sits on a chair and asks another girl curiously if she is wearing a bra that is a size too small. The second girl looks at her with surprise and begins to touch her clothes thoughtfully, checking them. The girl, adjusting her glasses, calmly says that she is trying to make them look smaller. The interlocutor looks at her with understanding and notices that he sees this, pointing to a cap on the shelf. He thoughtfully replies that he saw less than he actually did, which explains his embarrassment at not looking in the right place. The girl sits on the bed and says something, pointing at the guy, who looks a little embarrassed and apologizes. The second girl stands behind him and reminds him that his reaction makes the girl feel uncomfortable. The girl sits on the bed and calmly speaks to the guy, asking him to decide on the size. The guy looks embarrassed and answers hesitantly, clearly confused. The guy stands behind the girl and carefully touches her chest, to which she quietly reacts with slight embarrassment. The guy says he needs to concentrate, and the girl next to him, laughing, distracts him with her behavior. She looks relaxed and a little embarrassed, and he remains focused on his task. The guy whispers the girl's name, while gently hugging her. The girl closes her eyes, relaxing her head back, clearly experiencing a mixture of embarrassment and pleasure. The girl admits that her body is getting hotter and she feels strange. She then tries to stop the situation from developing, saying that they can't continue. The girl, sitting on a chair, asks worriedly if Madoka is okay. The guy standing next to her notices something strange and reacts tensely to what is happening. Two people in school uniforms, a girl and a boy, are standing next to another girl who is sitting on a bed and looks weak. One of the characters asks if she is okay, to which the other replies that she should be fine. The girl, turning to the other, says that she didn't react as much the last time they did it. She then asks if it's because the other had a breast reduction. The guy, with a slight embarrassed smile, covers his face with his hand and says, "Don't look," gesturing that he is embarrassed. The second character, presumably a girl, agrees, saying, "Okay." The guy sits on a chair, turning away and looking embarrassed, and the girl, standing next to him, asks if he needs to take off his underwear. The girl says with surprise that this time, the guy has outdone himself. He responds to her comment with embarrassment. The girl lies on the bed with her eyes closed and says that she can't blame the other person because it's his skill. She also mentions that no one else can use this method and they need to figure out a way to do it in a less emotional way. The girl looks at the guy with concern and says that this is the consequence of using his skill. She offers him her help, holding out her hand. A girl and a guy are sitting on the floor, both looking embarrassed. The girl, with her eyes slightly closed, says the phrase, okay, and the guy looks down with a slight blush on his cheeks. The girl notes that she is especially persistent today, thoughtfully touching her hand. The guy watches silently, remembering their recent conversation. The girl, with a slight blush on her face, tells the guy that even if others ask him for help, he should not get excited by touching. She looks serious and focused, waiting for his consent. The guy exclaims in shock, asking if the girl used her skill again. The girl sheepishly explains that she was wondering if she could touch breasts when he was aroused. The guy looks surprised and asks a question related to the use of the girl's skill. The girl seems awkwardly trying to explain her actions, justifying them by the consequences of his condition. A girl with a neutral expression asks if something is bothering the guy. She looks calm and a little distant, waiting for his answer. The guy tells her that he can see all her secrets and personal information. The girl asks worriedly if he is going to use this to harm her. The guy tells the girl that he appreciates her for staying with him, even knowing all his secrets. The girl looks at him with a slight smile, demonstrating understanding and support. The girl covers the guy's mouth with her hand, not letting him say anything. He is embarrassed, and she explains that he cannot say it yet. The girl smiles and covers the guy's mouth with her hand, warning him, She says that if he says it now, she won't be able to hold back any longer. The girl hugs the guy tightly from behind, demonstrating her affection. She confidently says that she is happy that he is her fiancé, and the guy shyly asks to be more gentle with him. The guy sits on a chair, turning towards his interlocutor, as if he is about to explain something. He starts talking, warning that he does not want to be misunderstood. The guy stands there, zipping up his jacket, while the girl sits on the floor, looking up at him. He notices that for someone with no experience, she's pretty good at handling intimate things, and she sheepishly asks. The girl, slightly tilting her head, thoughtfully puts a finger to her lips, reflecting on her experience. She mentions that she has seen many strange things and interesting fetishes thanks to her skills. The girl sits on a bench, legs crossed, looking thoughtfully ahead. She says that she wishes she had woken up earlier to prepare for her life, and mentions that she has seen many different people since she was 12. The guy looks at his interlocutor in surprise, raising his eyebrows slightly. He asks incredulously if this is true, to which the interlocutor confidently replies that he uses his skills at work. The girl stands behind the counter, holding a small object in her hand and examining it carefully. She mentions that she checks the authenticity and value of the materials that are sold in the shop near the dungeons. The girl, sitting on the floor next to the guy, confidently says that thanks to her skills, she will soon become a full-fledged worker. The guy, listening to her, admits that the more he learns about her achievements, the more jealous he becomes. A boy and a girl are sitting next to each other, and the girl is leaning slightly against the boy's shoulder, looking tired. She says that she doesn't have to make any effort, and the boy looks ahead with slight bewilderment. The girl, with a slight smile on her face and her eyes closed, says that she wants to work to make people happy. She admits that she always dreamed of working in the wedding industry. The guy looks thoughtfully ahead, and the girl, leaning against his shoulder, seems sleepy. He notices that she has already thought out her future, surprised by her determination. A guy and a girl are sitting next to each other. The girl tells him with a smile that he has a bright personality and easily finds a common language with people. The guy asks in surprise if this is true, maintaining a conversation with her. The guy, looking ahead with a thoughtful expression on his face, doubts whether he will be able to apply his professional skills in real work. The girl next to him confidently answers that she finds these skills very useful. The girl lies on the bed, tiredly looking at the ceiling, and says that all she does is change her breasts. A male voice nearby claims that this is her charm, because her power can help many girls. The girl wakes up and looks around, slightly raising herself on the bed, and asks in surprise where she is. The guy standing next to her calmly replies that she woke up at his place. A female character who is surprised to notice changes in her body when she touches her breasts. Her line states that her breasts have become smaller, and another character nearby apologizes for not explaining the nature of his ability to her sooner. The girl, her face reddening, looks at the guy in panic and asks him to take responsibility for the situation. She is confused, not knowing how to react to what is happening, and cannot find words. The guy, stunned and confused, looks at the girl with wide eyes, feeling a clear sense of déjà vu. The girl, on the contrary, smiles confidently and mysteriously, as if she had already expected such a reaction. The image shows a girl clutching her head in panic, her face expressing confusion and anxiety. She mumbles something about not being able to get married, and next to it, in a speech bubble, there is a call for someone to take responsibility. The guy with a serious expression tells the girl that he will take responsibility for what happened. The girl, in panic and embarrassment, presses her hands to her chest, expressing shock and disbelief. The girl, with a cold expression on her face, arms crossed, says sternly that she allows the other girl to be near the guy, but nothing more. She stands confidently, clearly showing her superiority and control over the situation. The girl, blushing and looking down in embarrassment, admits that she would like her first time to be with someone she likes. The guy next to her looks confused, not knowing how to react to her words. The girl covers her face with her hand, expressing confusion and sadness. She says she agrees, but she feels like something important has been taken away from her. The girl offers to use her skill with a smile. Perhaps it will help in making a decision. The second girl stands nearby, covering her face with her hand, clearly embarrassed and upset. The girl adjusts her hair and looks away intently, clearly lost in her thoughts. She quietly says that it is important to concentrate on the ears now. The girl, looking at the guy, confidently says that she was instructed to stay with him and provide support. The guy and the second girl listen attentively, taking her words seriously. The boy asks in surprise what this means, clearly trying to understand. The girl, thoughtfully adjusting her glasses, admits that she did not understand much, since the instructions were always confusing. The girl puts her hand on the other girl's shoulder, smiling and encouraging her with her offer to stay with the guy. The second girl, thoughtfully touching her chest, expresses doubt, but agrees that they will understand everything soon. The girl covers her mouth with her hand in embarrassment and quietly says that her skill has always been flawless. She adds that she will follow what the other person says, confident in the correctness of her actions. The guy asks worriedly if everything will be okay with the girl. The other character calmly replies that she needs time to cope with her emotions. The girl, slightly embarrassed, asks the other to give her hand, gesturing to her own. The second girl, slightly surprised, asks again, clarifying whether she really wants to take her hand. The guy, slightly surprised, asks a question, trying to understand the situation. The girl, taking his hand, looks embarrassed, while another girl sitting in front of them watches what is happening. The girl, slightly embarrassed, touches her shoulder and quietly says that she feels warm. The guy asks her if it calms her down, and she says that it is amazing. The girl asks a question about her body temperature with slight anxiety, wondering if it is too high. The guy, looking at her, calmly replies that he does not think so. The girl, sitting on the bed and slightly embarrassed, lowering her head, says that touching the hand calms a person. She gently holds the hand of another character, suggesting that this may be a hidden effect of his ability. The boy, a little surprised, wonders why Rimu always holds his hand. He thinks, slightly straining, as if trying to figure out something important. The girl looks at the guy with interest and asks him why he doesn't hold her hand because of his habit. She expresses this with a little excitement, trying to understand his motives. The guy looks at the girl with a smile and says that they get along well. The girl smiles slightly embarrassedly and asks why he says this so confidently. The girl, a little embarrassed, says that they really get along well. She looks down, as if thinking about something important. The girl stands in front of the other girl sitting on the bed and says that after helping Takiru, she really thought that she had no choice but to be with him. At this time, the girl sitting listens to her attentively, slightly tilting her head to the side with a questioning expression on her face. The girl says with a warm smile that she likes him the way he is. She holds his hand tenderly, pressing closer, showing her affection. The girl, smiling confidently, says that she has a skill that allows her to understand this. She holds the guy's hand, turning to the other girl, who asks the question with slight distrust. The guy, holding the girl's hand, reminds her that everything that happened should remain in this room. The girl reacts with fear, saying that if this becomes known, it will be the end for her. In the image, a girl with short hair smiles and puts her finger to her lips in a gesture of silence. She says it will remain their secret. The girl asked Madoka if she felt better. Maybe it was time for her to let go of his hand. The girl confidently declares that she will not let him go, squeezing his hand. The other girl with distrust reminds that this guy is not someone who can be controlled. A guy apologizes to another character while holding his hand as if he was injured. The second character expresses regret about this situation. The guy, with a smile on his face, asks the question, wondering if his hand is really that amazing. The girl next to him calmly replies that she doesn't mind if he wants to hold his hand again. The girl calmly says that she does not want to disturb Rima, so she advises to do it in moderation. She stands in profile with a serious expression on her face. A girl with glasses calmly asks a guy if he likes big breasts, slightly tilting her head in his direction. In the image, the guy is thoughtfully holding his chin, thinking. He says that he even wondered why some people are obsessed with big breasts, adding that all breasts have their advantages. The guy, sitting on the floor, apologizes for reminding the girl of the past that she wanted to forget. The girl, sitting on the bed holding a bag, confirms his words, saying, "So." The girl, sitting on a chair, calmly says that there are people who suffer from this problem, just like him. The guy, standing in front of her, is surprised to note that he realized this only today. A guy with a serious and determined expression says that he wants to be a support for another person if his skills are useful. He is standing in a school uniform and seems slightly nervous, but determined to help. The girl with glasses looks ahead with slight surprise and says the name Miyamoto-kun. She seems thoughtful, as if something suddenly struck her. The guy, slightly embarrassedly scratching the back of his head, says that he wants the girl to smile more often. The girl stands in front of him and listens attentively, her hands hanging down along her body. A guy with a warm smile on his face confidently says that he believes in the interlocutor's ability to cope with difficulties. He stands in a relaxed pose, suggesting to smile more often and forget about sadness. The girl with a joyful smile on her face says that she will try her best. She confidently clasps her hands in front of her, expressing readiness for action. A guy tells a girl with a smile that she has a great smile, pointing to his face with a gesture. The girl, slightly embarrassed, thanks him and admits that she feels better after his words. The girl, sitting on the bed, says that she needs to change to be happy. She clenches her hand into a fist at chest level, showing determination and readiness to act. The girl with a serious expression asks if she can come again when she feels sad. She looks up, waiting for an answer, and her voice sounds slightly uncertain. The guy says with slight hesitation that he will try to help if it is in his power. The girl with the ears, frowning, listens to him attentively, clearly worried. The girl calmly states that she is not going to ruin someone else's relationship. She smiles slightly, keeping her arms relaxed along her body. A young man thanks two people for the day with a slight bow, his feet pointing forward as he walks away calmly. The girl smiles and says that everything will be fine if they continue together. She puts her hand on the guy's shoulder to support him. The guy, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment, agrees with a hesitant, yeah. The girl looks at him seriously and says that they need to figure out how to keep his abilities under control. The girl sadly says that it is hard for her to remember the past. She clasps her face with her hands, clearly worried and trying to contain her emotions. The guy, seeing the girl's step, anxiously shouts, "Careful!" and quickly extends his hand. The girl, smiling, says goodbye with the words, "See you later," and continues walking forward. The girl asks with a smile if everything is okay, looking at the interlocutor with concern. At this time, someone nearby screams in fear, suddenly screaming in fear. The guy with difficulty pronounces an incomprehensible MGH, trying to get to his feet. The girl next to him tells him not to talk to Rivai and promises that she will get up now. In the image, a character is wondering to himself if he can maintain his sanity while fixing his breasts. At the same time, another character is yelling at him to just get off someone, clearly showing a strong reaction. A woman adjusts her hair, avoiding eye contact. She thinks about her rare job and skills, as told by a City Hall employee. Her abilities are noted as extremely rare. Three people stand at a station platform under a roof. A close-up shows one person's long hair and shoulder, while two others stand nearby, viewed from behind. One character reflects on using a skill each morning, not wanting to dive into dungeons but hoping for daily utility. A woman with glasses looks forward, her expression neutral. She reflects on an outcome that she did not anticipate. A girl stands on a bed, adjusting a fabric or garment above, with a glimpse of a bedroom setting. She contemplates someone's skill being used multiple times a week to reach a goal. A girl lies on a bed in a room, appearing restless and thinking about someone named Miyamoto-kun, with a longing tone. A girl excitedly explains that even B-cup bras can no longer contain her breasts, emphasizing her comment with hand gestures. Another person nearby asks her to stop shouting such things in public. The scene reveals a casual public environment with passers-by reacting to the girl's loud remarks. Two students talk about another student named Futayama-san in a classroom. One turns down their volume to avoid being overheard, while the other finds the way they say the name unusual. Several students stand and speak in a school hallway. One student explains they did not mean to call out someone's name. Others respond with casual remarks. The narration box mentions occasional school visits with another student after a few days. Two girls meet. One compliments the other, who mentions her skill warns her against going to school every day with them. The girl reflects on school attendance together. Two girls in school uniforms stand facing each other, one with short hair and the other with glasses and long hair. They exchange remarks about size changes. The conversation centers on something getting bigger or smaller. Two girls stand together near a staircase. One comments on needing new shoes soon. The other agrees, suggesting more flexible sizes to adapt to changes. A girl with short hair and a bow tie suggests buying something after school in a casual conversation. A boy questions his necessity as two girls stand beside a display of lingerie. One girl holds a bra, smiling while the other remains serious. The setting appears to be a store with clothing racks. A woman wearing glasses tells a man that it is embarrassing, but she has already shown him many things, so it is too late to stop now. The man, standing near a clothing rack, questions if Futayama would dislike the idea of a boy being there. A boy and a girl stand near a doorway. The boy looks back nervously while the girl, holding a bag and jacket, questions whether the idea is bad. She appears serious and hesitant. Boy hesitates and questions if trying on underwear is okay. Girl reassures it's common for couples in clothing stores and asks him to turn around. They discuss the situation calmly. Two students sit side by side on a train. A girl tries to comfort a worried boy. He regrets following them, troubled by an unresolved workers' issue. The atmosphere is tense and uncertain. A girl with light hair quickly rescues a dark-haired girl from danger near train tracks, holding her firmly as they avoid harm. People gather in the background watching the scene unfold. Gist: a rescue prevents a girl from imminent danger by the train tracks. Several students watch a girl walking through the crowd. They discuss her reputation as a high-class adventurer. The girl looks back with a calm expression. Densist: students recognize a renowned adventurer in the crowd. Students discuss Mimika saving a girl at the station yesterday, noting the incident's rapid spread. A boy and girl walk through the school hallway amid the talk. A character wonders if the event was just his imagination. Young man worries about being in the same class as a girl who might not remember him. He greets her while she walks through the classroom confidently. Other students in the background continue their routines, showing a typical school setting. A girl with long hair and a school uniform approaches a seated male student. She asks for a favor while he questions why she targeted him. Her confident aura surprises him. A girl stands by a boy seated at a school desk, asking if he was with a girl from another class recently. The boy responds, asking for an introduction to her, addressing her as Futayama-san. A close-up of the girl's eyes follows. Then two boys whisper quietly nearby, leaving the situation tense. A girl whispers to a boy, causing him to blush and react with surprise. She leans close with a serious expression. The boy listens intently. Gist: whispered words spark a strong reaction. A character reflects on the classified note, guessing it relates to jobs and skills. He internally acknowledges Irabane-san's voice as beautiful, summarizing his thoughts briefly. Several characters stand in a crowded station setting. One explains overhearing a woman feeling unwell, enabling timely action. Gist: timely intervention occurred after sensing distress. A male student sits at his desk, while a female student with a ponytail asks him to find another girl for her. He agrees, suggesting it might be faster if he looks instead. Gist: a girl asks a boy to find another girl for her. A girl in a school uniform stands silently, appearing thoughtful. A boy in uniform watches her. Puzzled, the girl agrees to ask someone something and promises to talk again at lunch break. The boy thanks her. Male student comments on a lack of girly smell from Irazaben-san while sitting at his desk. Female student turns around sharply, calling the male student a perv. Male student looks surprised and flustered as girl reacts. The student dialogue centers on perceptions of scent and awkward social interaction. Boy wonders about a girl's intentions, predicting a friend's surprise. Girl teases boy about his reaction, and boy asks her to help him secretly. A girl with a bow in her hair leans on a desk, asking about introducing another girl normally, expressing doubt about seriousness. A boy in a suit thinks she saw right through him and decides to do just that. A girl with long, dark hair and glasses introduces Futayama-san as a normal person and a recent friend. She speaks with a gentle smile, sitting casually. Several students sit around a table in a library. One student stands up, asking about Futayama Madoka's job and skill. Another student looks surprised, questioning if the request is normal. Man explains he referred to a woman as a normal person to protect her job and skills. Another person asks why he wants to know that, expressing the wish to keep the talk short but requesting an explanation. A woman with long dark hair and glasses speaks calmly about her job, expressing willingness to reveal her secret if necessary. She wears a formal outfit with a bow tie and a blazer. The scene conveys careful consideration and guarded communication. A girl with a ponytail, wearing a school uniform and clutching her bow tie, explains her solo adventures in tough dungeons despite being a student. She blushes nervously while talking about her skills and raids. Two girls stand close, holding hands. One confesses love at first sight while the other gasps, thinking of someone else. Cherry blossoms fall gently around them. A girl with light hair and a school uniform looks down and speaks quietly. Two others listen from the foreground. She says someone is bad at talking with girls her age. A girl in a school uniform sits on a chair, looking down with a troubled expression. She wonders why someone so beautiful would have problems like hers. The panel conveys her inner conflict visually and via her thoughts. Two students sit at a desk. The boy notes the girl talks normally with him, but she explains she usually hangs out with her brothers and doesn't talk to girls her age. Two girls sit in a bright room with bookshelves and a window behind them. One girl looks surprised while the other contemplates with her hand near her mouth. A third girl stands close, speaking about a past incident and her disrupted education due to it. Gist: A girl reveals her disrupted schooling caused by a past incident. A young man recalls a monster stampede from 10 years ago. The city faces chaos as people scatter and monstrous creatures attack. The memory triggers concern and urgency. A young girl in a school uniform stands with a downcast expression while explaining her mother's death during a monster attack and her own mental instability that kept her indoors for years. Girl sitting alone at desk reflects on stopping school due to bullying and not understanding social trends because of limited interaction with girls in middle school. Gist: she stopped attending school due to bullying and social isolation. A confident young woman walks through a hallway, dressed in a school uniform. Text notes she is praised by others for her adventurer achievements and assumed to live without problems. Man and woman sit opposite each other at a table in conversation. Man requests the woman to explain things while a third person listens silently. Woman acknowledges with thanks. A young man in a school uniform explains to an armored warrior that she hit a wall in a difficult dungeon. He suggests she wants help or a hint from a precognition user due to being solo too long. A girl with long dark hair sits in a chair, fingers to her lips, considering a question. She admits she would like to help someone. A person nearby asks for her opinion. A clenched fist appears in the center panel, symbolizing inner conflict. Speech bubbles reveal self-doubt about weak skills and hesitation to proceed. The tone is uncertain and tentative. A girl with long blonde hair expresses a desire to try everything and erase all dungeons from the world. She is serious and determined, speaking about her goal. Two girls in school uniforms sit in a classroom. One questions the significance of a job while the other admires its skill. They express differing views on job effectiveness. Two female adventurers discuss the challenges they face and the importance of knowing when to advance or retreat in dangerous scenarios. They consider the value of detecting traps and enemies' weaknesses. Two characters discuss the risk of bringing a woman into a dungeon. A male character suggests she could lead the team from outside using a specific item, while a female character agrees she can give instructions externally. The male character expresses concern about danger. A girl adjusts her hair and quietly asks the wind for wisdom. She pauses to reconsider, asking herself what to do next. The moment captures her introspective decision-making process. A girl with glasses raises her hands and says she will help, considering it the best choice. Another girl, surprised, responds before hearing more. Four students gather around a table, with one girl suggesting they all hang out together. Girl says she just met and hung out with her family, so she can't read the room. Boy questions what she means and doesn't understand their suggestion. A girl in a school uniform questions another about her breasts. The second girl reassures while recalling the first thing she asked Miyamoto-kun was to fix her breasts. The scene centers on their awkward conversation about breasts. Young woman with long light hair touches her chin and denies something is wrong. Another woman with dark hair asks if she is free after school and suggests taking a detour at the station. The first woman worries about standing out and causing trouble. A girl approaches a boy from behind, placing her hands on his shoulders with a smiling face. She excitedly says they have the perfect place. The boy looks surprised and confused by her sudden approach. A male character observes a female character, noting her elegant face and the nervous expression she makes when receiving attention. He thinks he has finally understood her reaction. Two characters sit on a train, discussing social invitations and exploring dungeons. One questions if the other prefers dungeons over hanging out. The other doubts the invitation fits their job. The gist: they debate social plans amid differing interests. Man and woman sit indoors. Woman explains she doesn't really have work hours and is free to go whenever she wants. Man expresses skepticism about true motives behind words. A girl with long light hair tied in a ponytail, dressed in a school uniform, sits quietly holding a bag. She mentions this is the first time someone her grade invited her, making it more important than any dungeon. A girl dressed in armor turns away holding a sword. She wears a dress and has her hair tied in a ponytail. The scene hints at her strong and independent nature. Two high school girls sit together in a train or bus. One with long black hair and glasses smiles gently, while the blonde girl looks thoughtful and slightly flushed. They discuss the possibility that someone simply wanted to live a normal high school life. The scene conveys reflection on simple desires amidst youth. A boy and a girl face each other. The boy notes he must be correct if a character named Rimlu agrees. The girl quietly responds with affirmation. Three girls sit on the floor in a room, talking about a different smell coming from another room. A boy stands nearby, surprised, and asks if his room stinks. A girl with long hair and a ribbon speaks about adventurers' sensitivity to smells and the importance of a good nose for detecting danger. She denies making a funny comment. Male character clarifies his position to Rimu and denies having a smell fetish. Female character comments on Takeru's supposed fetish and another character's lack of smell. A girl explains she hides her scent to avoid monsters detecting her. Another girl reassures her that there's nothing to be embarrassed about. The scene highlights concern and support. One girl touches another girl's cheeks, commenting on how her skin smells nice because of her job and the use of shampoo and makeup. The touched girl appears embarrassed and flustered. The first girl admits feeling jealous of the other's pleasant scent. Two schoolgirls stand in a room. One asks if the other wants to go shopping while the other offers to teach about cosmetics. One character expresses gloom and questions who the other thinks she is, while the second character looks surprised, wondering if the invitation is only formal. Two girls stand in a room, one smiling widely and the other with a calm expression. They talk about meeting and heading out together tomorrow. Friendship and plans are conveyed clearly. Three girls sit on the floor with books and bags. One mentions a console in her room. They discuss being hooked on it thanks to Takeru. Two schoolgirls talk in a hallway. One expresses self-doubt about being a hindrance, while the other reassures her that she is also a beginner. They aim to console each other. A girl with long hair tied up and a bow looks silently at a young man who holds a gaming controller and expresses frustration over a game's outcome. A sign nearby announces Mimika's victory. The scene focuses on gaming tension and reaction. Several characters gather inside a room. One girl stands confidently, explaining that Ibaran-san cannot cooperate in games designed to match human levels. Others listen and respond with curiosity. A character praises a girl's reflexes and vision, stating they surpass those of an average adventurer. The girl appears serious, looking to the right, with her hair tied back in a ponytail. Girl confesses her lack of skill in certain unspecified areas. Boy responds by explaining why they cannot win, even if the opponent is just experimenting with the game. The conversation revolves around limitations and strategies in a competitive context. Two schoolgirls interact in a room with a bed and a window. One girl apologizes, explaining her defense is high due to her job. The other girl reacts with pain, questioning if the attacker is a rock. Two girls argue about blame and truthfulness. One confesses foolishness for trying, while the other warns about consequences using a car metaphor. Two girls in school uniforms sit on the floor in a room with wooden flooring and a chair visible nearby. One girl looks back toward the other, who speaks. Four characters sit in a room, with one kneeling and explaining her changed opinion due to someone's expression, while the others listen or react with questions and indifference. A girl explains her ability to appraise others' profiles, pasts, and thoughts. Two classmates react with surprise and curiosity. They sit together, accepting honesty. A girl thanks others and promises to be careful. Another proposes playing a board game next, saying Mimika can join. Everyone agrees to play board games next. Boy asks girl about a missing disc, wondering if she placed it last. Girl turns to look at boy as he calls her name. Both stand near shelves and a TV. A girl sitting at a computer talks with a boy, who questions her about revealing her job as an appraiser. She hesitates, then admits it might not have been the best idea. A student expresses concern about how two others, Madoka and Mimika, might perceive her going forward. She speaks while sitting next to a similarly dressed classmate in a room with a curtain and window visible. Boy and girl sit facing each other. Girl asks if boy supports her no matter what. Boy replies he has nothing to fear. Gist: they confirm mutual support. Four high school students sit together playing on handheld devices. The boy in the center looks surprised, while the others watch and speak with anticipation. Three students sit together. One girl asks Takeru if they can get a drink. Another student notes a girl is having fun but seems reserved currently. A boy looks surprised as a girl stands behind him with her hands on his shoulder. She expresses a desire to go to a convenience store with someone named Mimika. The boy questions if she means the two of them. Young man and woman walk outside near a store with vending machines. He thanks her for accompanying him to the store, and she replies it was nothing. The scene conveys casual interaction between them. A young man appears concerned, while a girl in the background questions another's intentions. He reflects on someone's perceptiveness and doubts the reasoning for sending only two people alone. Boy questions girl about seeing through him while they walk outside near a building. Girl states she is aware of his suffering. Scene conveys awareness and concern between characters. Two students walk beside a curved road, discussing their feelings about some friends. The boy questions the girl's stance on those friends. The girl responds, she wants to be good friends with them. Young woman in school uniform looks uncertain, tears in eyes. She expresses an internal conflict between desire and fear, questioning her next step. Girl questions where a normal high school girl goes at unusual times. Boy responds that she is referring to their current location, not the girl's question. A girl asks a boy if he is still nervous around her while walking on a path. The boy replies, he won't start disliking people easily. Asking if she is scared, he will say something weird. They continue walking side by side. Two characters talk outdoors near a tree. One addresses the other as Taira Dasan and mentions being trusted by an appraiser. They exchange brief replies affirming this. Girl with long hair tied in a ponytail stands on a street. She wears a school uniform and smiles gently. She thanks someone sincerely. A surprised young man reacts to a question about making a similar facial expression. His eyes widen and his mouth opens slightly in shock or confusion. Another person is partly visible, pointing or gesturing toward him. Girl with a ponytail smiles and mentions a specific phrase as she faces a boy in a forested setting. Boy listens attentively. Dialogue centers on a notable facial expression. A boy says he owes thanks to the girl Rimu for something she said suddenly. Rimu tells the boy she worried he might fall in love with her, causing confusion. The boy asks what she means by that. A girl with long light hair and a school uniform looks thoughtful. She touches her chin with one hand and speaks seriously about shared experiences. The mood is reflective and sincere. A young woman in armor extends one hand while holding a sword in the other. She reflects on how others only notice her job and appearance, ignoring her weaknesses. She notes that worship started suddenly and without reason. A girl with long hair tied in a ponytail stands wearing armor, facing away. Another girl sits with knees hugged, looking down. The standing girl reflects on dungeons disappearing and living off them, showing conflict. A girl with long hair speaks with a slight smile and blush, expressing gratitude that someone named Taira Murisan likes her. She says this will allow him to see her true self. A boy reassures a girl not to worry, saying he only sees her as a normal Ibaranine. The girl responds that she has mixed feelings about his bluntness. This scene shows a candid conversation. A boy questions the idea of visiting an old bookstore, showing uncertainty and calling it dull. A girl asks if he has a place he often visits, and he wonders about a place to go. The girl briefly shows her legs while stating she wants to go to a certain place. Two people walk down a street. One wonders if there is a coffee shop nearby. They both think about coffee shops silently. Two students walk in a park recalling childhood memories. The girl notes the boy's nostalgia for the place, saying it holds meaning for him. A young man sits on a bench outside while a girl stands nearby. He comments on her smiling, suggesting she seems less nervous. She responds, questioning his observation, while he explains she's easy to get along with. A girl smiles and says she feels like she is talking to her brother. A boy responds that she closed the distance before he realized it, and she feels he can accept anything. Boy and girl sit on a bench, facing forward. Boy expresses willingness to try and happiness toward girl's feelings. Girl listens quietly with hands on lap. A girl in a school uniform with a ponytail asks about friendship with someone named Miyamoto-kun. She mentions Futayama-san from another class. She seeks clarification about their relationship. Girl with long hair tied in a ponytail stands facing a seated boy in school uniforms outside near a bench with bushes and trees behind. Girl asks if he is a specialist in breasts. Gist. Girl questions boy's expertise. A boy and a girl sit on a bench near fishing rods by the water. The girl apologizes for asking a weird question despite their first meeting, while the boy responds nervously, denying he's hiding anything. Gist. They have an awkward but open conversation at their first meeting. Two characters sit on a bench. One wonders about the other's mood, noting pressure or seriousness in their demeanor. Boy loudly declares having a skill named boob correction while running toward a girl. Girl feels she can't allow her loneliness to grow. The boy's statement breaks the silence. Two characters discuss an unusual skill one possesses, expressing surprise and rarity of the ability among adventurers. Two women appear in the scene. The woman with short hair speaks about understanding the necessity of her skill in the world. The woman with long hair reflects on how she now values her skill and does not see it as worthless. The gist is that both acknowledge the importance and usefulness of their abilities. A young man with short black hair speaks softly, blushing slightly and sweating on his cheek. He comments on the contrasting voices around him, noting their effect on hopes. A man and woman stand outside near a house, engaging in a conversation. Man reacts with surprise, while the woman comments on his skill used to help people. They share a casual, lighthearted moment. A boy and girl walk closely together on a pathway beside a fence and trees. The girl speaks hesitantly, preparing to make a request. They have just met, and she acknowledges it would sound strange coming from her. A girl with long hair tied back and wearing a school uniform looks forward with a flushed face and sweat on her cheek, speaking about hair growing from her nipples.